Hello and welcome to another episode of the N64 Japanese Eye. As always, this is the series where we take a Japanese exclusive N64 title and try to answer the simple questions. Can you play and enjoy it without knowing any Japanese whatsoever? Now, when I first started this series some years ago, one of the earliest games I covered was 64 Ōzumō. It had been a game which I had seen countless screenshots and news about in N64 magazine, but alas, it was never released here in the West. Although it didn't get great reviews at the time, when I eventually picked up the title, I found it to be quite enjoyable, and that the language barrier was not so much of an issue as I had been expecting. I certainly felt it deserved more than the 3.9 out of 10 that GameSpot gave it back in the day. Considering how long it's been since I did an episode in this series, I'm assuming that many of you who are new subscribers may not have even seen my episode covering the original, and so perhaps before watching this video you may want to check out the playlist and watch that episode, because like most sequels this shares a lot in common with the original. Bottoms Up were back once again to develop and publish the sequel, which landed on Japanese store shelves in early 1999. Offering a brand new career mode, improved visuals and a tighter gameplay mechanic, this was a game which I had high hopes for but ultimately struggled with. Like the prequel, the core single player game mode is resolved around taking your sumo wrestler throughout various stages of their career. Whereas the first game gave you a single character to play as, this time around you are given a full creation suite to make your own player to take through the journey. There's a surprising amount of tweaks and changes that you can make here, and so getting your character to look the part is very nicely done. But this is where the career mode really starts to cause me problems. Whereas the first game you had what appeared to be a somewhat linear story mode with frequent cutscenes to help you understand the plot, the sequel here places less emphasis on showing you what's happening and instead presents a whole lot of dialogue. Now, for Japanese speakers this shouldn't be a problem, and I'm sure the storyline here progresses in a much less linear manner and with a more compelling writing style. But for anyone with a Western tongue, this makes it incredibly difficult to understand what's happening. The cutscenes this time around seem much more dialogue heavy, whereas the first game had much more action-packed sequences which made things progress at a much quicker pace. Thankfully for those that have played the original game, the actual sumo wrestling action hasn't changed a great deal. The analog stick moves your character and the C buttons provide all the actions. With the on-screen prompts to assist you, you can actually get through the matches fairly easily, just playing them almost like QuickTime events. However, for anyone hoping for a WWF or WCW Aki style wrestling game, you will be disappointed. But for somebody wanting something quite unique, there really is nothing else like it on the console. Given the nature of sumo wrestling, you'll find that the bouts themselves rarely last all that long. You'll have occasional battles on your hands with some tougher opponents, but for the best part the matches can sometimes be over in a matter of seconds. This gives me mixed feelings because the longer fights can get really tense, very much like a standard fighting game when both of your health bars are critically low. But having some very quick matches helps keep the game moving quickly, and it could be more suited to those that are more interested in the storyline than the actual action itself. Graphically, the game really isn't up to scratch. As soon as you turn on the game you're greeted with a bare bones video intro and things really don't pick up from here. Sure, the menus and text are all quite clear, but visually everything looks very early in the console's lifespan. The character models are quite cartoon-like, and for some strange reason there seems to be far too many light spots all over the characters, giving them an almost plastic look. On a plus point though, the facial expressions are quite cool. Yes, they are very Japanese and way over the top, but at least you can instantly get a feel for how you're doing simply by looking at their over-stylized faces. Rounding off the game's package is the audio, which very much like the visuals do the job, but not much more. The music in the game is all quite cute and really wouldn't sound out of place in an early 90s Saturday morning cartoon show. In a nice addition though, the announcer has some very crisp and clear audio. I never thought I'd actually complain about how clear audio would be on this console, but it's so clear here that it seems almost out of place with the rest of the effects, which have a distinctly compressed sound to them. Overall, it's hard to recommend 64 Ōzumō 2 to anyone except die-hard sumo wrestling fans, which I really doubt there's many of. The more complex menu system and heavy use of text in the game makes it a chore to play when compared to the first game, which felt much more accessible. This is really annoying because I enjoyed the first game so much and I was almost hoping for more of the same in this game, but in an attempt to make the game more in depth, they also made it too complicated for my abilities. This led me to be thinking of something quite interesting. Can you think of a game that you've played where you've enjoyed the original and you know that the sequel is technically superior, but it just didn't live up to your expectations? I'd also love to hear and know of any of you watching that had this game back in the day and what your thoughts on it were at the time and how your import experience was. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and until next time.